Maya Chen walked through the crowded hallways of Terra Prime Academy with her head down, clutching her worn textbooks against her chest. Students barely glanced at her as she passed, their conversations flowing around her like water around a stone. To them, she was invisible, just another quiet human girl in a school filled with the galaxy's most promising young beings. "Watch where you're going, dirt dweller," sneered Zarek, a tall Altarian with crystalline blue skin and 4 arms. His friends laughed as Maya stumbled slightly, having been deliberately bumped by one of his extra limbs. She mumbled an apology and hurried past, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Terra Prime Academy was supposed to be the best educational institution in the known galaxy, where the children of diplomats, military leaders, and wealthy merchants from dozens of species came to learn. Humans had only recently been admitted after first contact 5 years ago, and Maya was one of only 12 human students in the entire school. Most of her classmates came from species with obvious advantages. The Vorlocks had enhanced strength and could lift shuttlecraft with their bare hands. The Zenthari possessed telepathic abilities that made them natural leaders and negotiators. The Kythera had photographic memories and could process information at superhuman speeds. Even the peaceful Aquarians had biokinetic healing powers that made them incredibly valuable in medical fields. Humans, it seemed, had nothing special to offer. Maya slipped into her strategic warfare class just as Professor Grixtar began his lecture. The insectoid instructor's compound eyes glittered as he surveyed the classroom full of young aliens, most of whom towered over the small human girl taking a seat in the back row. "Today we will discuss the legendary Battle of Kepler Station," Professor Grixtar announced, his mandibles clicking with each word. "A turning point in galactic history, where a single warrior held off an entire draconian war fleet for 6 hours, allowing civilian transports to evacuate." The classroom buzzed with excitement. Every student in the academy had heard stories of the Battle of Kepler Station. It had happened during the Draconian Wars, 3 decades before most of them were born, but the tale had become legend throughout the galaxy. "The warrior's identity remains classified to this day," the professor continued. "What we do know is that they single-handedly operated a defense platform designed for a crew of 20. Military analysts still study the battle tactics used that day. The precision, the adaptability, the sheer impossibility of what was accomplished. It redefined what we thought possible in space combat." Vextar, a proud Draconian student whose ancestors had been on the losing side of that battle, raised one of his clawed hands. "Professor, my grandmother served in that fleet. She said the Defender fought like they could predict every move we made. No single being should have been capable of such tactical awareness." "Indeed," Professor Grixtar agreed. "The warrior's performance was so extraordinary that many species military academies still require their officers to study the battle. The Kepler Station defense has become the gold standard for understanding adaptive combat strategy under impossible odds." Maya found herself leaning forward, despite her usual tendency to blend into the background. She had always been fascinated by military history, though she never spoke up in class. Her human brain seemed to work differently from her classmates. Where they saw complex tactical problems, she saw patterns. Where they needed computer assistance to track multiple variables, she could hold dozens of factors in her mind simultaneously. The most remarkable aspect, the professor continued, was how the Defender adapted their tactics in real time. As the Draconian fleet changed their approach, the defense platform's responses evolved to counter each new strategy. It was as if the warrior could think several moves ahead of their opponents. Kefra, a Zenthari student with the typical silver skin and enlarged cranium of her species, spoke up. "Our historical records suggest the Defender might have been using some form of combat prescience, the ability to see probable futures in battle. It would explain the tactical impossibility of what occurred." Maya shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had always been good at anticipating what would happen next, whether in sports, games, or even conversations. Her parents had called it intuition, but Maya wondered if it was something more. During the virtual combat simulations that were part of their physical education curriculum, she found herself making decisions that surprised even her, choices that seemed obvious in the moment but proved devastatingly effective. The warrior's species was never officially confirmed, Professor Grixtar noted, though given the time frame and the location, Speculation has ranged from Altarian to Vorlox to even some of the more secretive species like the Shadow Collective. It couldn't have been human, laughed Jexlon, a Vorlox student built like a small mountain. No offense to our human classmates, but your species had barely achieved faster than light travel at the time. You hadn't even made formal contact with the galactic community. Several students chuckled, and Maya felt her face grow hot again. It was true that humans were considered the newcomers, the species with no particular strengths or remarkable abilities. They were tolerated in galactic society more out of politeness than respect. Actually, Professor Grixtar said, his tone thoughtful, human military psychology presents some interesting characteristics that our xenobiologists have noted. Your species has an unusual capacity for pattern recognition under stress, and your neural plasticity allows for rapid adaptation to new situations. In theoretical combat scenarios, these traits could prove quite valuable. The classroom fell silent for a moment. It was rare to hear any alien acknowledge potential human advantages, even theoretical ones. Still, Vextar said dismissively, pattern recognition is one thing. The Kepler station defense required superhuman reflexes, impossible tactical awareness, and the ability to operate complex weapon systems beyond their designed parameters. No human could have accomplished what happened that day. Maya stared down at her desk, her hands clenched into fists in her lap. If only they knew, she thought. If only any of them knew what she was really capable of when pushed to her limits. But Maya Chen remained silent, just as she had been taught. Some secrets were too dangerous to share, even with classmates who might one day become allies. The bell chimed, signaling the end of class. As students filed out, chattering excitedly about the legendary battle, Maya gathered her things slowly. She had always wondered what it would be like to be seen as more than just a quiet human girl. But some legends, she reminded herself, were better left in the past where they belonged, at least for now. The training facility hummed with activity as students from across the galaxy practiced their combat skills. Maya stood at the edge of the sparring arena, watching as Thexara, a Kithara student with silver skin and enhanced reflexes, effortlessly defeated her third opponent of the day. The crowd of students cheered as the insectoid warrior executed a perfect spinning kick that would have been impossible for most species to even attempt. Next challenger, called out Instructor Valtar, a grizzled Vorlox veteran whose scars told stories of real battles. His 4 eyes scanned the assembled students, most of whom suddenly found reasons to look elsewhere. I'll go, said Zarek, the Altarian who had bumped into Maya earlier. His crystalline skin caught the light as he stepped into the arena, his forearms moving with practiced coordination. He was known as one of the Academy's best fighters, combining natural strength with formal training in Altarian combat techniques. Maya watched from the sidelines as Zarak and Thexara circled each other. The Kithara's enhanced processing speed gave her an advantage in reading her opponent's movements, while Zarek's extra limbs provided unpredictable attack angles. The match was brutal and beautiful, 2 perfectly trained warriors pushing each other to their limits. Thexara's silver eyes tracked Zarek's movements with mechanical precision, her head tilting slightly as she calculated probability matrices in real time. But Zarek had been studying her fighting style, and he began to incorporate feints and misdirection that confused her enhanced senses. The crowd gasped as Zarek managed to land a solid hit, his third arm striking while Thexara was focused on blocking his primary attacks. She staggered but quickly recovered, her adaptive combat protocols adjusting to this new information. Impressive adaptation, Maya murmured to herself, unconsciously analyzing the flow of battle. She could see the patterns emerging, the way each fighter was learning and counter-adapting. Zarak was relying too heavily on his numerical advantage, while Thexara was becoming predictable in her responses to multi-limb combinations. Did you say something, human? Asked Jexalon, the massive Vorlox student who had laughed about human capabilities in class. He looked down at Maya with amusement. Enjoying the show? This is what real warriors look like. Maya shrugged, not wanting to draw attention to herself, but she couldn't help noticing the subtle tells both fighters were displaying. Zarek's lower left arm always tensed slightly before he initiated a combination attack. Thexara's silver eyes dilated when she was about to activate her enhanced speed mode. The match continued for another 10 minutes before Thexara finally managed to exploit an opening in Zarek's guard. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to slip past his forearm defense and deliver a precise strike that ended the match. Both fighters bowed respectfully, breathing hard but grinning with the satisfaction of a well-fought battle. "Excellent work, both of you," Instructor Valtar announced. "Your improvement over the term has been remarkable. Now, who else would like to test their skills against our current champion?" The arena fell silent. Texara's combination of natural advantages and dedicated training made her nearly unbeatable among the students. Even the instructors acknowledged that she was approaching professional-level competency. "Come now," Valtar continued, his scarred face creasing into what might have been a smile. "Surely someone else wishes to challenge themselves today. Combat training is not about winning or losing. It's about growth, adaptation, learning to overcome your limitations." Maya felt something stirring inside her chest, a familiar sensation she had learned to suppress. It was the same feeling she got during virtual combat simulations, when her mind would suddenly shift into a different mode of thinking. Time seemed to slow down, patterns became crystal clear, and her body moved with an efficiency that surprised even her. "I'll try," Maya said quietly, stepping forward before she could change her mind. The arena erupted in surprised murmurs. Several students laughed outright, while others looked genuinely concerned for her safety. Humans were not known for their combat prowess, and Maya was small even by human standards. "Are you certain?" Instructor Valtar asked, his expression serious. "Texara is operating at an advanced level. I would not want to see you injured." "I understand the risks," Maya replied, walking into the center of the arena. Her heart was pounding, but her mind felt oddly calm. She could feel the weight of every gaze in the room, the mixture of curiosity, amusement, and pity from her classmates. Texara looked genuinely uncomfortable. "Human Maya, I do not wish to harm you. Perhaps we could engage in a light sparring session instead." "Regular rules," Maya said firmly. "First to 3 clean hits or submission." The crowd fell silent as the two fighters took their positions. Maya looked impossibly small across from the silver-skinned Kithara warrior, but something had changed in her posture. The nervous, hunched shoulders were gone, replaced by a predatory stillness that seemed to radiate outward. "Begin," called Instructor Valtar, though his voice carried clear reluctance. Texara approached cautiously, her enhanced senses analyzing Maya's stance and body language. She had never fought a human before, and she was unsure what to expect. Her silver eyes dilated as she activated her enhanced processing speed, time seeming to slow around her as she prepared to end the match quickly and mercifully. Maya didn't move. Texara struck with precision, a lightning-fast jab designed to tap Maya's shoulder for a clean first hit. But as her fist moved through the air, Maya simply wasn't there anymore. She had shifted just enough to let the strike pass by, so close that it brushed the fabric of her training uniform. The Kithra's enhanced mind immediately began recalculating. The human had moved at exactly the right moment with exactly the right distance. It wasn't luck. It was precise timing that suggested Maya had anticipated the attack before it began. Maya's counterattack came like flowing water, her small fist finding the gap in Texara's guard that had opened when she overextended her strike. The hit connected cleanly with the Kithra's solar plexus, drawing a surprised gasp from the silver-skinned warrior. "First point to Maya Chen," announced Instructor Valtar, his voice carrying genuine surprise. The arena had gone completely silent. Students stared in shock as Maya reset her position, that same predatory stillness settling over her like a cloak. Texara's silver eyes were wide with confusion and something that might have been excitement. "How did you move so precisely?" Texara asked, genuinely curious. "My enhanced perception should have made such timing impossible." Maya didn't answer. She was listening to something deeper than words, feeling the flow of the fight like a river current she could navigate. Her mind was processing dozens of variables. Texara's breathing patterns, the slight favoring of her left side, the way her enhanced eyes tracked movement, the micro-expressions that preceded each decision. This was what she had always hidden, what she had learned to suppress in every other aspect of her life. In combat, Maya Chen wasn't just another human student. She was something else entirely, something that her parents had warned her to keep secret until she was old enough to understand the consequences. Texara attacked again, this time with a complex combination that utilized her full enhanced speed. But Maya was already moving, flowing around the strikes like she was dancing to music only she could hear. Her responses came not from conscious thought, but from somewhere deeper. A tactical awareness that seemed to predict her opponent's actions before they were fully formed. The second point went to Maya as well, her elbow finding Thexara's ribs with surgical precision. The crowd's shocked silence was now complete. Every student and instructor staring at the impossible scene unfolding before them. Thexara stood in the center of the arena, her silver skin flushed with exertion and confusion. For the first time in her academic career, she was facing an opponent who seemed to exist one step ahead of her enhanced perceptions. Impossible, breathed Jexalon from the sidelines. Humans don't fight like that. Maya heard the comment and felt a cold smile touch her lips. If only they knew just how wrong they were about what humans could do when properly motivated. But that was a lesson for another day. Right now, she had a match to finish. The aftermath of Maya's victory over Thexara sent shockwaves through Terra Prime Academy. Students whispered in corridors, instructors held hushed conferences, and for the first time since arriving at the school, Maya found herself the center of attention she had never wanted. It was a fluke, Zarek insisted during lunch, his forearms gesticulating wildly as he addressed a table full of skeptical classmates. No human possesses the reflexes necessary for what we witnessed. Thexara must have been malfunctioning. Thexara herself sat at the far end of the cafeteria, her silver skin dulled with what appeared to be deep contemplation. She had requested a complete diagnostic of her enhanced processing systems, but every test came back normal. The impossible truth was that a seemingly ordinary human girl had defeated her through pure skill. Maya picked at her food in silence, trying to ignore the stares and whispered conversations happening around her. She had hoped that winning would feel satisfying, but instead she felt exposed and vulnerable. Her parents had always warned her about revealing too much of her capabilities, and now she wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Maya Chen. Report to Director Kethval's office immediately, came the announcement over the Academy's communication system. The cafeteria fell silent as every head turned toward the small human, girl who had somehow become the most talked about student in the school. Director Kethval was a Zenthari, whose silver skin and enlarged cranium marked him as one of the most telepathically gifted members of his species. His office overlooked the Academy's main courtyard, where students from dozens of worlds mingled and studied together. Maya had only been inside once before, during her initial orientation, and the experience had been intimidating. Please, sit, Director Kethval said as Maya entered, his mental voice resonating directly in her thoughts with perfect clarity. Unlike spoken words, telepathic communication carried emotional undertones, and Maya could sense curiosity mixed with something that felt like concern. Director, if this is about the sparring match, I can explain. Child, the director interrupted gently. You misunderstand my purpose. I am not here to discipline you. I am here because what you demonstrated today raises questions that extend far beyond a simple training exercise. Maya shifted uncomfortably in her chair. She had always been able to sense when Zenthari were using their telepathic abilities, a resistance that she had never mentioned to anyone. Most humans reported feeling slightly disoriented when Zenthari probed their thoughts, but Maya experienced their mental touch as clearly as if someone were speaking aloud. Your combat performance exceeded all known parameters for human capability, Director Kethval continued. Thexara's enhanced processing speed should have made her victory inevitable. Yet you appeared to anticipate her movements before she initiated them. How do you explain this? I just saw patterns, Maya said carefully. The way she moved, her timing, the small tells before each attack. It wasn't anything supernatural. Director Kethval's large eyes studied her intently. Child, I have been alive for over 2 centuries. I have witnessed combat between the galaxy's greatest warriors. What you displayed was not simple pattern recognition. It was something approaching prescient awareness. Maya felt her heart rate increasing. The director's telepathic abilities meant he could probably sense her elevated stress levels, but hopefully not the specific thoughts she was working to suppress. There is something else, the director continued. I am attempting to scan your surface thoughts as is standard procedure during disciplinary meetings. Yet I find myself unable to penetrate beyond the most superficial layer of your consciousness. This level of natural mental resistance is unprecedented in humans. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the air recycling systems. Maya stared at her hands, trying to decide how much truth she could safely reveal. Her parents had drilled into her the importance of maintaining her cover, But sitting across from one of the galaxy's most powerful telepaths made secrecy feel increasingly impossible. "Director," Maya said slowly, "what do you know about human genetic diversity?" Kethavol's silver eyebrows rose slightly. "I know that humans exhibit greater genetic variation than most species, despite your relatively recent emergence as a spacefaring civilization. Your neural plasticity is also remarkably high, allowing for rapid adaptation to new environments and situations. What if I told you that some humans have capabilities that haven't been officially documented yet?" The director leaned forward in his chair, his telepathic attention focusing with laser-like intensity. "I would say that such information would be of tremendous importance to the Galactic Council's understanding of your species' potential contributions to our civilization." Maya took a deep breath. "My parents were both military, Director. They served during humanity's first conflicts with alien civilizations, back before the peace treaties were signed. There were programs, experimental enhancements designed to give human soldiers advantages when facing technologically superior opponents. Genetic modification? Not exactly," Maya replied. "More like awakening latent potentials that already existed in human DNA. The programs were discontinued when the wars ended, and most of the participants were sworn to secrecy. Their children were supposed to live normal lives." Director Kethval was quiet for a long moment, his telepathic senses probably working to verify the truth of her statements. Finally, he spoke again. "Maya Chen, are you telling me that you are the offspring of enhanced human soldiers?" "I'm telling you that what you saw today was me being very careful not to hurt Thexara," Maya said quietly. "My parents taught me to hide what I can do, to blend in and avoid attention. But sometimes when I'm in combat situations, it becomes difficult to hold back." The implications of her words seemed to hit the director like a physical blow. His silver skin paled noticeably, and Maya could sense shock radiating from his telepathic presence. "Child, if what you're suggesting is true, then your capabilities may far exceed what we witnessed today. The question becomes, what exactly are you capable of when you're not holding back?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "I don't know, Director. My parents made sure I never had reason to find out. They said the galaxy wasn't ready for what enhanced humans could do if they were pushed to their limits." "Enhanced humans," the director repeated slowly. "Maya, do you have any idea when these enhancement programs began?" "My parents were part of the first generation about 35 years ago." "Why?" Director Kethavol's eyes widened with sudden understanding, and Maya felt a wave of shocked realization emanating from his telepathic presence. 35 years ago, he whispered. "Maya Chen, I believe we need to discuss the Battle of Kepler Station." Maya's blood turned to ice. She had wondered if anyone would eventually make the connection, but she had hoped it would take longer. Her parents had always told her that her mother's service record was classified, that the details of what happened during the Draconian Wars would remain secret forever. But sitting in Director Kethavol's office, looking into the eyes of a being who had just connected her enhanced abilities to the timeline of the galaxy's most legendary battle, Maya realized that some secrets were too large to stay buried forever. "Director," she said carefully, "I think there are some things about human military history that the galaxy still doesn't understand." The silver-skinned Zenthari nodded slowly, his telepathic senses probably picking up the waves of suppressed knowledge and inherited trauma that Maya carried within her consciousness. "Indeed, child, and I suspect that understanding those things may be more important than any of us previously realized." Outside the office windows, students from across the galaxy continued their daily routines, unaware that the quiet human girl who had surprised them all in combat training was carrying secrets that could reshape their understanding of humanity's place in the galactic community. Maya looked out at her classmates and wondered how long it would be before they learned just how much they had underestimated the species they called ordinary. The emergency alarm screamed through Terra Prime Academy with a piercing wail that sent students scrambling for cover. Maya looked up from her advanced tactical theory homework as red warning lights bathed the dormitory corridors in an ominous glow. "All students report to designated safety zones." Immediately came the announcement over the communication system. "This is not a drill. Hostile vessels have been detected approaching the Academy station." Maya's enhanced senses kicked into high gear as adrenaline flooded her system. Through her dormitory window, she could see the sleek forms of unmarked warships emerging from quantum jump points around the Academy's orbital platform. Their black hulls bore no insignia, but their aggressive formation and weapon configurations made their intentions clear. Students poured into the main assembly hall, a mixture of fear and excitement crackling through the air. Most had never experienced real danger, protected by the Academy's reputation as neutral ground where the children of galactic leaders could study in safety. Maintain calm. Director Kethavol's telepathic voice resonated through the minds of everyone present. Academy security forces are responding to the threat. You will remain in the designated safe areas until the situation is resolved. Maya found herself pressed against a wall as larger students pushed past her toward the reinforced shelters. But her enhanced hearing picked up something that made her blood run cold: the distinctive whine of quantum torpedoes charging for launch. The attackers weren't here for a simple raid or kidnapping. They were preparing for total destruction. "Director," called out Instructor Valtar, his scarred Vorlox frame towering over the crowd of students. "Security reports indicate 15 hostile vessels, all heavily armed. They're jamming our communication arrays and have disabled the orbital defense platforms." Maya closed her eyes and extended her enhanced awareness outward, feeling for the patterns of movement and intention that surrounded them. It was a trick her mother had taught her during their private training sessions: the ability to sense tactical situations beyond the range of normal perception. What she felt made her stomach clench with terror. The attacking fleet was positioning for a systematic bombardment that would leave no survivors. Worse, she could sense something familiar about their tactical approach, something that triggered memories of stories her parents had told her about the darkest days of the Draconian Wars. "The Shadow Collective," she whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. Director Kethavol's telepathic attention snapped toward her like a focused beam. "What did you say, child?" "The attacking formation," Maya said, her voice growing stronger as certainty filled her. "It matches Shadow Collective assault patterns from the war archives. They're not here for ransom or political leverage. They're here to eliminate witnesses." The crowd of students erupted in panicked murmurs. The Shadow Collective was a name spoken only in whispers, a faction of extremist aliens who believed that humanity's recent inclusion in galactic society represented a fundamental threat to the established order. "Impossible," Zarek declared, his crystalline skin flickering with nervous energy. "The Shadow Collective was disbanded after the peace treaties. They no longer exist as an organized force." Maya's enhanced senses were screaming warnings as she felt the attackers' weapons reaching full charge. "Director, we have maybe 3 minutes before they open fire. The Academy's shields won't hold against a coordinated assault of that magnitude." "How could you possibly know that?" demanded Thexera, her silver eyes wide with confusion. Maya looked around at the faces of her classmates, beings she had shared classes with, studied alongside, watched from the shadows as they excelled in their various specializations. They were the future leaders of galactic civilization, representatives of dozens of species and cultures. If the Shadow Collective succeeded in destroying them, it would shatter the fragile peace that held their society together. Her parents had always told her to hide her abilities, to blend in and avoid drawing attention. But as she felt the quantum torpedoes reaching launch readiness in the ships above, Maya realized that some situations were too important for secrets. "Because I can feel their tactical patterns," she said, her voice carrying a new authority that made even the Vorlox instructor step back. "Because my enhanced senses are telling me exactly what they're planning to do. And because we have approximately 2 minutes and 30 seconds before this station becomes a debris field." Director Kethavol's telepathic presence pressed against her mental defenses, and for the first time Maya allowed him to sense the true depth of her capabilities. She felt his shock as he encountered the tactical awareness systems that had been passed down from her enhanced parents. "By the ancient stars," he breathed aloud. "Child, your mental architecture is unlike anything I have ever encountered. You are processing battlefield information at a superhuman level. The defense platforms are still functional," Maya continued, her mind now fully engaged in combat analysis mode. "They've been disabled by electromagnetic pulse, but their core systems can be manually reactivated. The problem is that someone would need to reach the primary control station, which is located in the most exposed section of the orbital array." "That would be suicide," Instructor Valtar growled. "The station is directly in the line of fire from the attacking vessels." Maya walked to the large viewing window that overlooked the Academy's docking bays. Below, she could see the sleek forms of student shuttlecraft and training vessels, most of them too small and lightly armed to pose any threat to the attacking fleet. Not. If someone could pilot a ship in an unpredictable pattern while simultaneously operating the defense systems, she said quietly, someone with enhanced reflexes and tactical awareness might be able to reach the control station and bring the platforms back online before the bombardment begins. The implication of her words hung heavy in the air. Every student and instructor in the room understood what she was suggesting, and the impossibility of what would be required. Maya, Director Kethaval said gently, what you are proposing would require capabilities far beyond what any individual has demonstrated in recorded galactic history. The level of multitasking, the precision flying, the combat awareness, it would be legendary. Maya turned from the window and met his gaze directly. Director, my mother once told me that legends are just history that people haven't verified yet. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the quantum torpedoes reaching final launch sequences aboard the Shadow Collective vessels. Whatever decision was going to be made needed to happen immediately. I need access to the Academy's fastest training ship, Maya said, her voice now carrying the unmistakable tone of command. And I need someone to clear the docking bay for emergency launch. This is madness, Zarek protested. You are just one human girl. How can you possibly succeed where our combined security forces have failed? Maya looked around at her classmates one final time. These beings who had spent months underestimating the quiet human in their midst. When she spoke again, her voice carried echoes of something much older and more dangerous than a 17-year-old academy student. Because 35 years ago, my mother held off an entire draconian war fleet for 6 hours while operating a defense platform designed for 20 people. Because enhanced human capabilities were classified for good reason, and because some legacies are passed down through more than just stories, the silence that followed was broken only by the continued wailing of emergency alarms and the distant vibration of hostile engines preparing for attack. Director Kethaval studied her face intently, his telepathic senses probably reading the absolute certainty in her mental patterns. Finally, he nodded slowly. Instructor Valtar, escort Maya Chen to the advanced training hangar. Grant her access to whatever vessel she requires. As Maya walked toward the docking bay, she could feel the weight of every gaze in the room. Her classmates were finally seeing her for what she really was. But she wondered if they would survive long enough to understand the full implications of that revelation. Above them, the Shadow Collective fleet completed their targeting solutions and prepared to erase Terra Prime Academy from existence. Maya's hands moved across the training ship's controls with fluid precision, her enhanced neural pathways interfacing with the vessel's systems in ways that should have been impossible for someone without years of advanced pilot training. The craft was a modified Zenith-class interceptor, designed for teaching advanced maneuvers to students who would one day command fleets across the galaxy. Launch bay is clear, came Instructor Valtar's voice through the communication system. Maya, are you certain about this course of action? Our tactical computers are showing a 0% probability of mission success. Tactical computers don't account for enhanced human adaptability, Maya replied, her voice eerily calm as quantum torpedo locks began appearing on her sensor display. The Shadow Collective vessels had detected her launch and were already adjusting their targeting solutions. Through the ship's viewports, she could see the massive orbital defense platforms that surrounded Terra Prime Academy, technological marvels capable of holding off entire invasion fleets, now dark and silent after the electromagnetic pulse attack. Each platform was the size of a small city, bristling with weapon arrays that could reshape the tactical balance of any engagement. Maya's enhanced senses reached out through space, feeling the electromagnetic signatures of the disabled systems, mapping the damage patterns with an intuitive understanding that went beyond normal technical knowledge. Her mother had taught her to think of technology not as separate systems, but as extensions of her own awareness. Primary EMP damage concentrated in the central processing cores, she murmured to herself, her mind automatically calculating repair sequences and activation alternatives. Secondary systems show minimal damage. Manual override is possible if someone can reach the primary control stations. The first wave of quantum torpedoes launched from the Shadow Collective fleet, their blue-white trails streaking through space toward her small craft. Maya's perception shifted into the enhanced state that her parents had called combat time, a neurological condition where her brain processed information so quickly that the universe seemed to slow around her. She could see the torpedoes' trajectory patterns, feel the guidance system's lock-on protocols, sense the exact timing of their proximity detonations. Her hands moved across the controls without conscious thought, sending the interceptor into a spiral dive that carried her through the torpedo spread with meters to spare. "Impossible," breathed Thexara's voice over the Academy's communication channel. Back in the safety bunkers, the students were watching Maya's flight through the station's external cameras. No being can react that quickly to multiple simultaneous threats. Maya barely heard the comment. Her awareness was expanding outward, encompassing not just her own ship but the entire tactical situation around Terra Prime Academy. She could feel the Shadow Collective vessels adjusting their positions, sense their weapon systems cycling through targeting solutions, detect the subtle electromagnetic signatures that preceded each wave of attacks. The first defense platform loomed ahead of her, its massive bulk scarred by electromagnetic damage but still structurally intact. Maya brought her ship in close to its docking port, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to match velocities with precision that would have challenged even military pilots. "Docking complete," she announced, though her voice carried an odd detachment that suggested most of her consciousness was focused elsewhere. Beginning manual reactivation sequence. What happened next would be analyzed by military academies across the galaxy for decades to come. Maya somehow managed to maintain perfect tactical awareness of the space battle around her, while simultaneously interfacing with the defense platform's incredibly complex control systems. Her enhanced neural pathways allowed her to process multiple data streams at once, tracking incoming threats while manually bypassing damaged circuits and rerouting power to critical weapon arrays. "Platform Alpha coming online," she reported, her voice still carrying that strange calmness. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the massive weapon systems awakening like sleeping giants, their targeting sensors beginning to sweep the surrounding space. The Shadow Collective fleet immediately recognized the threat and began concentrating fire on her position. Quantum torpedoes and plasma beams converged on the defense platform, but Maya was already moving. Her small interceptor detached from the docking port and spiraled away in a flight pattern so erratic and unpredictable that the enemy targeting computers couldn't maintain. "Locks. Platform Alpha is engaging hostile targets," came the report. From the Academy's tactical center, the massive defense installation's weapons opened fire, sending streams of coherent energy across space to impact against the Shadow Collective vessel's shields. But Maya was already moving toward the second platform, her enhanced awareness calculating the precise timing needed to bring all systems online before the attackers could adapt to the new threat. Her ship danced through enemy fire with an impossible grace, each movement perfectly timed to exploit gaps in the overlapping attack patterns. "How is she doing this?" Zarek's voice carried a mixture of awe and disbelief. "She is operating at a level beyond any individual capability we have studied." Director Kethvol's telepathic response carried overtones of dawning comprehension. "Because she is not operating as an individual. Watch her neural patterns. She is thinking like a distributed system, processing information and making decisions across multiple simultaneous threads of consciousness." Maya reached the second defense platform and repeated her impossible performance, manually reactivating systems while maintaining perfect awareness of the battle around her. Platform Beta's weapons came online just as a concentrated barrage of Shadow Collective torpedoes reached her position, and she guided her ship through the crossfire with moves that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. "2 platforms online," she reported, though her voice now carried subtle harmonics that suggested the strain of maintaining such intense mental activity. "Beginning approach to Platform Gamma." The Shadow Collective fleet was adapting now, their tactics shifting to account for the reactivated defense systems. Maya could sense their commanders recognizing the threat she represented, feel their decision-making processes as they allocated resources to eliminate her before she could bring the remaining platforms online. What followed was a space battle that redefined what observers thought possible for a single pilot to achieve. Maya's interceptor moved through three-dimensional space like it was dancing to music only she could hear, weaving between energy beams and quantum explosions, while somehow maintaining perfect timing for each platform activation. "Sequence, Platform Gamma online," she announced as the third installation's weapons joined the defensive fire. The tactical balance was beginning to shift now, with the Shadow Collective vessels taking significant damage from the coordinated defensive array, but Maya's enhanced senses were warning her of something. Knew the enemy fleet was preparing to execute a coordinated retreat while simultaneously launching every remaining weapon in their arsenal. At Terra Prime Academy itself, it was a scorched earth tactic, designed to eliminate their targets even if it meant sacrificing their own forces. They are preparing for total bombardment, Maya reported, her voice now showing the first signs of fatigue. All remaining platforms must be activated within the next 90 seconds, or the Academy's shields will be overwhelmed. She could feel her enhanced neural systems beginning to strain under the impossible load of maintaining tactical awareness across such a vast area while simultaneously operating complex technological systems. But she could also sense something else. The fear and hope radiating from her classmates back in the safety bunkers. The trust that Director Kethvol was placing in her abilities. The weight of representing everything her species could achieve when pushed to their absolute limits. Maya Chen, the quiet human girl who had spent months being underestimated by her classmates, pushed her enhanced capabilities into entirely unexplored territory as she raced to complete the most impossible mission in galactic history. Above her, the Shadow Collective fleet prepared to unleash enough firepower to crack a small moon, while below, the future leaders of galactic civilization waited to see if one enhanced human could accomplish what entire fleets had failed to achieve. Maya's enhanced consciousness expanded beyond anything she had ever experienced before as she raced toward the fourth defense platform. Her neural pathways were operating in configurations that pushed the boundaries of what human neurology could achieve, processing tactical data streams that would have overwhelmed entire command centers. Through her expanded awareness, she could feel every quantum torpedo in the Shadow Collective fleet, reaching final arming sequences. The enemy commanders had made their decision. They would sacrifice their entire force to ensure Terra Prime Academy's destruction, eliminating the next generation of galactic leadership in one devastating strike. Platform Delta activation beginning, Maya announced, though her voice now carried harmonics that suggested her consciousness was operating on multiple levels simultaneously. Her hands moved across the defense system, controls, while another part of her mind tracked the incoming barrage and yet another calculated the precise timing needed to bring the remaining platforms online. The strain was enormous. Maya could feel her enhanced neural systems approaching dangerous overload levels. But stopping now would mean death for everyone she had come to care about at the Academy. Images flashed through her mind. Texara's genuine curiosity about human capabilities, Director Kethvol's patient mentorship, even Zarek's competitive challenges that had pushed her to excel. Platform Delta online, she reported as the fourth installation's weapons joined the defensive matrix. The coordinated fire from 4 platforms was now inflicting serious damage on the Shadow Collective vessels, but Maya's enhanced senses could feel that it wouldn't be enough. The enemy fleet was too large, their final barrage too overwhelming for even the Academy's legendary defenses to completely stop. She needed all 7 platforms operational, and she needed them now. Maya's interceptor leaped toward Platform Epsilon, moving through space in patterns that seemed to anticipate enemy fire before it was even launched. Her enhanced predictive abilities were operating at their absolute limits, reading the quantum fluctuations in enemy weapon systems and the neural patterns of their gunners to stay microseconds ahead of certain death. Maya, came Director Kethvol's telepathic voice, carrying overtones of amazement and concern. Your neural activity is registering at levels we have never recorded in any species. You are approaching the theoretical limits of biological consciousness. I know, Maya replied, her voice now eerily serene despite the impossible complexity of what she was accomplishing. But 7 minutes ago you would have said what I'm doing now was theoretically impossible too. Platform Epsilon's activation sequence began as quantum torpedoes detonated around Maya's ship, their explosions close enough to overload her shields and send cascading failures through her interceptor systems. But somehow she maintained perfect control, her enhanced reflexes compensating for damaged systems faster than the ship's computers could register the problems. Platform Epsilon online, she announced as the 5th installation added its firepower to the defensive array. The Shadow Collective fleet was now taking devastating losses, their formation beginning to collapse under the coordinated assault. But their final barrage was already in motion, hundreds of quantum torpedoes and plasma charges racing toward Terra Prime Academy with enough destructive force to atomize the entire station. Maya pushed her consciousness further than any human had ever gone before, expanding her awareness to encompass the entire battle space, while simultaneously interfacing with Platform Zeta's control systems. She could feel her enhanced neural pathways beginning to burn out under the strain, but she also sensed something else, a deep connection to the defensive systems that went beyond normal technological interface. Platform Zeta online, she reported, though her voice now carried strange echoes that suggested her consciousness was somehow resonating with the defense network itself. 6 platforms were now operational, their combined firepower systematically destroying the Shadow Collective vessels, but it still wasn't enough. Maya's enhanced predictive systems showed her the brutal mathematics of the situation. Even with 6 platforms operational, approximately 30% of the enemy barrage would penetrate the defensive screen. Terra Prime Academy would survive, but thousands of students and faculty would die in the impacts. She needed the 7th platform, and she needed it operational in the next 45 seconds. Maya's interceptor raced toward Platform Omega, the final installation in the defensive array, but her ship was failing now. Damaged systems cascading into complete breakdown as the strain of the extended battle took its toll. Warning alarms screamed through her cockpit as life support began fluctuating, and her engines lost power. "Ship is no longer viable," she announced with that same eerie calm, abandoning interceptor for direct platform interface. What Maya did next would be discussed in xenobiology textbooks for centuries. She somehow managed to transfer from her dying ship to Platform Omega's docking port, using nothing but her suit's maneuvering thrusters, a feat that required spatial awareness and timing precision beyond the capabilities of most species-enhanced pilots. But even more impossibly, as she interfaced with Platform Omega's control systems, her enhanced consciousness seemed to merge directly with the defense network itself. Her neural patterns synchronized with the platform's quantum computers, creating a hybrid system that operated at levels no purely biological or artificial intelligence had ever achieved. "Platform Omega activation complete," Maya announced, though her voice now seemed to come from everywhere at once, as if the defense network itself was speaking. "All systems operational. Coordinated defensive fire commencing." The 7 platforms fired as one, their weapons linked through Maya's enhanced consciousness into a unified defense system that operated with impossible precision. Quantum torpedoes were intercepted by perfectly timed energy bursts, plasma charges were neutralized by coordinate beam arrays, and the entire Shadow Collective barrage was systematically destroyed before it could reach Terra Prime Academy. The enemy fleet, seeing their final gambit fail completely, attempted to retreat through quantum jump, but Maya's expanded awareness encompassed their escape vectors as well, and the defense platform's fire followed them through their jump calculations, destroying the last Shadow Collective vessels as they attempted to flee. In the safety bunkers, students and faculty watched in stunned silence as the battle concluded with complete victory for forces they had thought doomed only minutes before. On the tactical displays, they could see that every hostile vessel had been eliminated, while Terra Prime Academy remained completely unharmed. "Threat neutralized," Maya's voice announced through the communication system, though it now carried harmonics that suggested her consciousness was still partially merged with the defense network. "All Academy personnel are safe. Shadow Collective fleet has been completely destroyed." Director Keth Vol's telepathic senses reached out toward Platform Omega, trying to understand what Maya had become during the battle. What he found was consciousness operating at levels that challenged his understanding of what was possible for any form of sentient life. "Maya," he called out telepathically. "Can you hear me? Are you still you?" There was a long pause before her response came, and when it did, her voice carried both the familiar cadence of the quiet student they knew, and something vast and new that had been awakened by the impossible demands of the battle. "I'm still me, Director," Maya replied, though her consciousness was clearly operating on scales that encompassed far more than any individual awareness. "But I think I understand now why my parents were so careful about keeping human capabilities secret. Some potentials are too dangerous to reveal until the galaxy is ready to understand them." Through her expanded awareness, Maya could sense her classmates beginning to emerge from the safety bunkers, their minds struggling to process what they had witnessed. The quiet human girl who had been underestimated for months had just single-handedly defeated an entire Invasion fleet while operating 7 defense platforms simultaneously. The implications of what she had accomplished would reshape galactic understanding of human potential and raise questions about what other capabilities her species might be hiding. But for now, Maya was content to slowly withdraw her consciousness from the defense network and return to something resembling normal human awareness. She had protected her friends, saved the Academy, and finally shown the galaxy what enhanced humans were truly capable of achieving. The secret her parents had kept for 35 years was finally out, and Maya suspected that everything would be different now. 3 days after the Shadow Collective attack, Maya sat in the Academy's medical bay, while Dr. Veltara, the head of xenobiology, ran yet another series of neural scans. The Aquarian physician's healing abilities had helped Maya recover from the severe neural strain of her platform interface. But the implications of what she had accomplished continued to ripple through the galactic community. "Your neural pathways show permanent alterations," Dr. Veltara explained, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with concern. "The expansion of consciousness you achieved appears to have created new synaptic connections that should not be possible within the constraints of human neurology." Maya nodded tiredly. She had been subjected to dozens of tests since the battle. As xenobiologists, military strategists, and government officials tried to understand how a single individual had accomplished what entire fleets considered impossible. "The question that concerns us most," Dr. Veltara continued, "is whether these changes represent an evolution in human capabilities or something unique to your enhanced genetics." Before Maya could respond, the medical bay doors opened to admit Director Kethfol and a figure Maya recognized from news broadcasts, Admiral Korethval of the Galactic Defense Force, a distinguished Xanthari military leader whose telepathic abilities were legendary, even among his species. "Maya Chen," Admiral Korethval said, his mental voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding fleets across multiple star systems. "I have reviewed the tactical recordings of your defense of Terra Prime Academy. What you accomplished represents a fundamental shift in our understanding of individual combat capability." Maya remained seated on the medical examination table, though she could sense the intensity of both Xanthari minds focused on her. Their telepathic abilities allowed them to read surface emotions and general mental states, but her enhanced neural defenses still prevented deeper probing. "Admiral," Maya said carefully, "I understand that my actions have raised questions about human military capabilities. But I want to emphasize that what I did was possible only because of very specific circumstances. The enhanced genetics I inherited, the years of training my parents provided, and the unique configuration of the Academy's defense systems." Admiral Korethval's large eyes studied her intently. "Child, you single-handedly operated 7 defense platforms while simultaneously piloting a spacecraft through enemy fire. Military analysts have calculated that such coordination would require the combined efforts of at least 40 trained officers. How do you explain this level of capability?" Maya was quiet for a moment, considering how much truth she could safely reveal. The battle had already exposed far more about enhanced human abilities than her parents had ever intended, but she sensed that complete honesty might be the only path forward. "Admiral, what do you know about the theoretical limits of neural plasticity?" "I know that most species reach maximum neural development during adolescence, after which their cognitive architecture becomes relatively fixed," the Admiral replied. "Humans are different," Maya explained. "Our neural plasticity remains active throughout our lives, allowing for continuous adaptation and enhancement. The military programs that created the enhanced bloodlines didn't add new capabilities. They awakened potentials that already existed in human DNA." Director Kethfol leaned forward, his telepathic attention sharpening. "Maya, are you suggesting that all humans possess these latent capabilities?" "To varying degrees, yes," Maya confirmed. "But accessing them requires specific training, genetic activation, and usually extreme circumstances. Most humans live their entire lives without ever approaching their actual limits." The implications of her words seemed to hit both Xanthari simultaneously. Admiral Korethval's silver skin paled noticeably as he processed the potential military significance of an entire species with dormant enhanced capabilities. "How many enhanced bloodlines exist among your people?" the Admiral asked quietly. "I don't know the exact numbers," Maya replied honestly. "The programs were classified, and the participants were scattered across human space after the wars ended. But there are others like me, descendants of enhanced soldiers who carry the genetic modifications. Dr. Veltara looked up from her medical scanners with an expression of amazement. Maya, your post-battle neural configuration shows integration patterns that suggest you could interface directly with almost any technological system. The defense platform merger appears to have been just the beginning of your capabilities. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had sensed the same thing during her recovery. A new awareness of the electronic systems around her that went far beyond normal human-machine interface. It was as if the extreme stress of the battle had unlocked capabilities that had been dormant, even in her enhanced genetics. There's something else, she said slowly. During the battle, when I merged with the defense network, I could sense other enhanced humans across the galaxy. It was brief, but I felt their presence like distant stars in a constellation I'd never noticed before. The medical bay fell silent except for the soft humming of diagnostic equipment. The idea that enhanced humans might be connected through some form of quantum entanglement or shared consciousness field raised possibilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about individual awareness and species-level coordination. Maya, Admiral Korethval said finally, I must ask you a direct question, and I need you to answer with complete honesty. During the Battle of Kepler Station 35 years ago, was it your mother who held off the Draconian fleet? Maya met his gaze steadily. The secret that had shaped her entire life was finally being spoken aloud by someone other than her parents. There was no point in maintaining the fiction any longer. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, enhanced human assigned to deep space reconnaissance during the Draconian Wars, Maya said quietly. She operated Defense Platform 7 at Kepler Station for 6 hours against impossible odds, while civilian transports evacuated. Her performance that day became classified at the highest levels, because it revealed capabilities that human leadership felt the galaxy wasn't ready to understand. Director Kethaval's telepathic presence radiated shock and dawning comprehension. The legendary warrior of Kepler Station was human, and you are her daughter. The genetics don't breed true, Maya continued. Enhancement requires activation through training and specific stressors. My mother spent years preparing me for possibilities she hoped I would never face, but when the Shadow Collective threatened the Academy, those preparations allowed me to access capabilities that have been dormant in human DNA for millennia. Admiral Korethval stood quietly for several minutes, his enhanced mind probably processing the strategic implications of everything Maya had revealed. When he finally spoke, his mental voice carried a mixture of awe and concern. Maya Chen, your people have been hiding capabilities that could reshape the balance of power in our galaxy. The question now becomes, what do we do with this knowledge? Maya looked out through the medical bay's viewport at the Academy's main courtyard, where her classmates were returning to normal routines after the attack. Texara was helping Zarek with his combat training, while other students from dozens of species worked together on projects that would shape the future of galactic civilization. We learn, Maya said simply. We study enhanced human capabilities under controlled conditions. We explore the potential for awakening these abilities in others, and we prepare for whatever challenges might require such capabilities in the future. She turned back to meet Admiral Korethval's gaze directly. But most importantly, we remember that power without wisdom is dangerous. The enhanced bloodlines were created during wartime, when survival required capabilities that peaceful societies wouldn't normally develop. If we're going to explore these potentials, we need to do it carefully. Dr. Veltara looked up from her scanners with excitement. Maya, would you be willing to participate in a comprehensive study of enhanced human neurology? What we could learn might benefit not just your species, but our understanding of consciousness itself. Maya nodded slowly. On one condition. Any research must include enhanced humans as equal partners, not just test subjects. We understand our own capabilities better than outside observers, and some knowledge can only be safely shared between those who carry the genetic modifications. Admiral Korethval's expression suggested he was already planning how to integrate this new information into galactic defense strategies. Maya, would you consider transferring to the Advanced Military Academy? Your tactical abilities suggest you could make significant contributions to galactic security. Actually, Maya said with a small smile, I think I'll finish my education here at Terra Prime. My classmates have finally stopped underestimating humans, and I'd like to see what we can all accomplish together when we're working as equals. Through the viewport, she could see students from across the galaxy collaborating on projects that would shape their shared future. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Maya felt like she truly belonged, not as the quiet human girl hiding in the shadows, but as an enhanced human ready to help build a better galaxy for all species. The secret of humanity's hidden capabilities was finally out, but Maya suspected